Okay, here we are at section 3.4, solving multi-step inequalities. So we did the same thing with equations. We're going to do the same thing with inequalities. So all that this means is that we're going to have to use more than one step to get our solution. So here we go. So our first inequality is 9 plus 4t is greater than 21. So what I like to do is look at where my variable is. It's on the left-hand side of my inequality symbol, but I have two terms. I have this 4t and I have this 9. Now, at some point, both of these numbers need to move to the other side, but I need to move the one that's furthest away from my t first. So that means my 9. Now, my 9 is positive, it's not negative, so I'm going to use the inverse operation and subtract it from both sides. So we become left with 4t is greater than 21 minus 9, and that gives me a 12. So here we go, 21 minus 9 is 12. And now I need to move this 4 to the other side. My 4 and my t are sandwiched together through multiplication, so I need to use division to get it to the other side, which means that t is greater than 3. And we're done. So next up, I have negative 6a minus 7 is less than or equal to 17. So at some point, I need to move this negative 6, and at some point, I need to move this 7. Now, the 7 is further away from my a, so that's what I'm moving first. I see subtraction, so we need to add to the left and then to the right. So I'm left with negative 6a is less than or equal to 24. Okay? So, in order to get this negative 6 to the other side, we have to divide because the a and the negative 6 are being multiplied together. So, I end up with a. Now, I divided by a negative number, so my sign must flip to a greater than symbol. And 24 divided by 6 is my 4, negative 4. So, remember, we have to flip the sign. So, this last problem I want you guys to try on your own. If you do not like the way that it's written, you can rewrite it as this. 5 minus 3n is greater than negative 4. So if you like that better, they're the same thing. It's just I flipped everything to the other side. Okay? So next up, we are going to be doing a word problem. So you guys don't have these boxes written on your paper, so I just need you to listen carefully because there's an extra part to this. So in a community garden, you want to fence in a vegetable garden that is adjacent to your friend's garden. So this is the friend's garden, and this is your garden. Okay, so hers is already fenced in. The pink is already fenced in, the blue is not. So we have at most 42 feet of fence, and then it wants to know what are the possible lengths of the fence in the garden. So based on the friend's garden, we know that this width is 12, which means that this width is also 12. And we're not sure about the length, but we know that it's the same on the top as it is on the bottom. And it wants to know the possible lengths of this garden, being that we only have 42 feet of fence. So when we're talking about fencing something in, we're talking about the outline of whatever area we're talking about, which is perimeter. So we're talking about perimeter. Now the perimeter of our garden is going to be 12 plus 12 plus L plus L, right? Those are all of our sides being added up. Now, usually we would make this equal to some number, but it's saying that we have at most 42 feet of fence. That means we don't need to use it all, but we could. We just can't go over that amount because we don't have more than 42 feet of fence. So all of these sides added up have to be less than or equal to that 42. Cannot be more. Could be equal to 42. That's why we have a less than or equal to symbol. So if we simplify this, we get 12 plus 12, which is 24, plus L, which is 2L, is less than or equal to 42. Now, I need to get this L alone, so I'm going to move this 24 first. So I'm subtracting 24 from both sides. I'm left with 2L is less than or equal to 24. Now, in order to get this 2 to the other side, we need to divide. So I'm left with L is less than or equal to 12 feet. That means that, I'm sorry, this is not right. 42 minus, I'm going too fast, guys. So 42 minus 24, this gives me 18. I'm sorry. So when I divide by 2 and I divide by 2, I get that L is less than or equal to 9 feet. So the length of this garden cannot be more than 9 feet. You could have less than 9 feet, but you cannot have more than 9 feet. Okay? Great job. Sorry for my mistake. Okay, so sometimes we will encounter the distributive property, and that's what we're going to do right now. So this question says, which is a solution of 3 times t plus 1 minus 4t is greater than or equal to negative 5. So what I want to do, instead of plugging in each value, we're just going to solve for t and then figure out which one of these answers satisfies that inequality at the end, okay? So first thing I want to do is distribute my 3 to both terms on the inside because I see those parentheses. So we are left with 3t plus 3 minus 4t is greater than or equal to negative 5. So I have 2 terms with t and I want to combine them. So I really have 3t minus 4t gives me negative 1t plus 3 is greater than or equal to negative 5. Now, my 3 is further away from my t, so I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. Subtract 3 from both sides. I get negative 1t is greater than or equal to negative 8. In order to get this negative 1 to the other side, I want to divide by negative 1, divide by negative 1. Now, I divided by a negative, which means that my sign flips. So I'm left with t is less than or equal to positive 8. So what this means is that t has to be less than or equal to 8. So all of these values, which one is less than or equal to negative 8? 11 is greater than 8, so no. 10 is greater than 8, so no. 9 is greater than 8, so no. But 8 is equal to 8. If I plugged in 8 for t, 8 is less than or equal to 8 because it has that equal to symbol. So A is our answer. I would like you guys to do the same thing for the try on your own, okay? You can also rewrite this as 5 minus 2 times 4m plus 7 is greater than or equal to 15. They're the same thing, okay? And we are moving on. Okay, so sometimes we will encounter situations where we have variables on both sides. So in this situation, we have 6n minus 1 is greater than 3n plus 8. So we cannot combine like terms because our variables are on 2 separate sides of the inequality and our constants are on 2 separate sides of the inequality. So we want to move our constants to one side and our variables to the other side. So first things first, I'm going to move this 3n because it's smaller. You could move the 6n, doesn't matter. And I like my variables on the left, so that's what I'm going to work with. So I see a positive 3n, so I want to move it to the other side using subtraction. Therefore, I get 6n minus 3n, which is 3n minus 1 is greater than 8. Now I have a two-step inequality, right? I want to move this negative 1 to the other side by adding it. I'm left with 3n is greater than 9. Now I must divide to get this 3 to the other side. So I'm left with n is greater than 3. Okay? So it's really important you realize when you're combining like terms because your terms are on the same side of the inequality sign, or if you need to move them using inverse operations because they're on separate sides. So that's why I always like to draw this line through your inequality symbol to show clearly the separate sides. So I need you guys to try this one on your own at the bottom. And then last up, we have a couple of inequalities that may have special solutions. So these are different and it's important to listen up. So we solve like regular. So I see right off the bat I see parentheses, so I know I want to distribute. So I'm going to leave my left-hand side the same. I have 10 minus 8a is greater than or equal to 2 times 5 is 10 minus 2 times 4a, which is 8a. So I see the same thing on the left as I do on the right, just like the equations. This means that this is this will always be true. So the answer to this is always true. So it would be all real numbers. I'm going to show you why. So if I wanted to move my variables to the same side, I would add this 8a to both sides. I would end up with 10. Now, negative 8a plus 8a is 0a, so I would just have 10 is greater than or equal to 10. Now, this is always true, right? 10 will never be less than 10. 10 is equal to 10, and this inequality symbol says that equal is okay. So this means that your answer is all real numbers. Every single thing works for this inequality. It's similar to when we did equations, we said that things were identities. This is very, very similar. Okay? So lastly, we have another one that has a special solution. So I have 2 terms on the left and I have 3 terms on the right. I see 2 m's here. I want to combine them. So I'm left with 6m minus 5 is greater than 7m minus 1m is 6m plus 7. So similarly here, we see the same term with our variable, but a different constant. So what I want to do is establish what I have here. So let's move this 6m over by subtracting so we can see this better. Now they both cancel. So I'm left with negative 5 is greater than 7. Is this true? Negative 5, is it larger than 7? No way. So never will this inequality be true. Okay? So the answer to this is no solution. If by chance this number was larger than 7, it would be all real numbers would be your solution. But since this is not true, it's no solution. Okay? So this will take practice. We will go over it in class. Please write down questions that you have again, and I'll see you guys soon.